You know those books that only come along once in a great while in your reading journey? The ones that really just hit you on a profound emotional level that really can't be put into words. It's a rare thing. I've read a lot of books in this past year as I've sort of been getting back into reading that I've loved. I really enjoyed the plot, and I found it very exciting and interesting, and the characters are fun, and just enjoyed it. But this one here, I'm talking about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, did all of those things, and also struck a chord with me in such a deep way that I rarely, if ever, come across. This is very quickly rose through the ranks to being one of my favorite books of all time. Probably in my top 3, honestly. I had to talk about it. I had to record this video because, fortunately, I don't know anybody else who has read the book, which I would love to nerd out with about it, which is why feel free to pop in the comments and say your thoughts if you have read it. So I'm just dying to talk about this masterpiece with someone, so had to record this video. So Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. It's a pretty slim book. It's about 245 pages, so it's a quick read. And even for somebody like me who's a bit of a slower reader, I like to really kind of savor every line. It took me probably about 4 or 5 days to read. I was willingly also kind of like spreading it out because I was enjoying it so much. I wanted to just really savor it. I didn't want it to be over so quickly. And already by the time the end came, I was like, man, I wish it kept going because it's so good. It truly is an example of a book that takes the greatest advantage of its very limited page count. It really just, it's all killer, no filler. There's not a second of a lull to it. It is just, it's so tight. And it's just every page just builds on the next in such a methodical, just ingenious way. I don't really know how else to describe it. So I'm going to try to leave this review as spoiler-free as possible because as pretty much everybody says about this book, I think the best experience you can get out of it is probably knowing the least information possible, but I do think having a little bit of a hook to know if it's something you might be interested in is always good. So I'm pretty much going to be reading you to the extent of what is on the back of the book. So it follows a character called Piranesi who lives in this gargantuan, seemingly endless, to Piranesi's perspective, a labyrinth that's sort of composed of all of these interconnected vast hallways and corridors and staircases and this very Greek Roman inspired architecture with these gargantuan pillars and archways and also, very importantly, statues. Tons of statues, thousands upon thousands of them that are all throughout the house, depicting a huge range of various things and characters and situations. And so that's one of the major things that you're going to see Piranesi sort of writing about in his journals, documenting and studying as he explores the house. And this world is just described so vividly. So Piranesi exists in this world that he calls the house, and this is his world. This is all that Piranesi knows. And as far as he knows, it's just him and one other person that exists in this world, him and the other. And the book is written in first person from Piranesi's perspective in the form of journal entries. So, we're kind of going day by day. Not literally a day by day. There'll be, gaps in the journal entries, but we're following Piranesi through his experience in this house. And this house also has an ocean in it. It has these, lower floors, which are flooded with this ocean, and occasionally these tides will rise to the halls that Piranesi inhabits and will begin to flood these rooms. And so Piranesi has very methodically sort of been keeping track of the pattern of these tides and how to navigate the house, and it's pretty much what he lives to do, is understand this world that he lives in, and in order to protect himself against it and thrive as well as he can. And there's this extremely intriguing mystery that begins to unravel, and I'll pretty much leave it at that. But I'll just tell you, man, this protagonist, I grew so attached to so quickly. It was one of the most impactful things about the book to me. I'm somebody who is a very big fan of first-person narrative when it comes to books. I do think that it's one of the perspectives that can be the hardest to pull off. So poorly done first-person storytelling can be pretty rough. Can possibly be even worse than just okay, third-person storytelling. It's a harder thing to do, but when it's done well, I think it can be one of the most immersive ways of writing, and this book is certainly an example of that. It just completely envelops you, not only in Piranesi's mind, but also in this world, which is so vividly, richly described. You just get these beautiful images painted in your mind from the way that Piranesi describes things, and it's all very readable. It's all very accessible. There's nothing about the writing style that's too extreme or out there in any way, or even flowery, but it is beautifully told. There's a simplicity to it, but by no means is it watered down. It's clear. It is very just vivid, and it really makes you feel the emotions that Piranesi is feeling. And he's just such a wholesome protagonist, such a pure, innocent soul, but he has these layers to him, and you kind of get to... It's just a joy to sort of unwrap his personality as the story goes on, as he begins to learn more about what is around him. And it's really just everything that I look for in a book. Very suited to my taste. I've always been somebody very fascinated with books that focus on themes of isolation, that focus a lot on the setting and are very sort of introspective, very psychological. This book is certainly all those things, and hearing that prompt before going into reading it, I kind of already suspected it was going to be something that I would love. But it grew into be something so much more than that as well. There's this whole other element to the story that I had zero expectations of. I was not anticipating it, but it completely blew me out of the water. This mystery, it's, it has this sort of contemplative, slightly slower tone to it, but there's never a lull. It always feels like the story is rolling ahead, and in a very intentional, very finely sculpted way. It's very nuanced, and it starts with this, very slow sort of series of reveals, and things come to a surprisingly intense crescendo. I will say this: it has some truly riveting, intense parts to it, which was not something I was expecting. I think I would have loved it even if it didn't have that, but I think that whole element only elevated it to the next level. Yeah, I really just can't praise this book enough. It's one of the few books I've read to where I truly have a hard time naming any flaws in it. There's nothing I would change about this book. It's an easy 5 stars for me. Pretty much perfect in my eyes. As subjective as a term as perfection is, that's going to be something different for everyone. But I don't know, even books that such as The Name of the Wind, which I absolutely loved, there are things about it that I could perhaps describe as flaws, or maybe just some aspects that people aren't going to connect with as much. Maybe I don't find as well done. And I think naturally part of that has to do with its length. It is a pretty lengthy high fantasy novel. So you're bound to get sections in there which just aren't quite as strong as other sections. I think it's only natural. The longer a book is, the harder it is for it to be consistent all the way through. But I think the fact that this is so tight, so short, it just does everything that it sets out to do as well as I could have imagined it being done, or even beyond that. It's so artfully crafted. I'm really curious to check out some more from this author, Susanna Clarke. She has written one other book called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is, funnily enough, it's a massive book. I mean, it's a chunk. It's probably, 4 or 5 times longer than this book is. But there was a big gap between when that book came out and this one came out, so she spent a lot of time kind of refining it, and you can really see that. You can really see all of the attention to detail she put into it, and just every word being placed exactly where she wanted it to be. I can't recommend this book enough. I think, especially if you're into any of those themes that I explained, I think it's a safe bet. You're probably going to love this book. And even if you're not, I think that this is it's just a very accessible book overall. I thought I was about to fall over. I think there's something for everyone in this book, something that everybody can at least really enjoy, if not love. Like I said, there's nothing that I think is going to be very alienating in terms of style about this. It's very digestible. I mean, it's such a quick read. A lot of people could read this in a day. I probably would have read it in a day if I didn't stop myself. But yeah, the book just blew me out of the water. Absolutely loved it, and I hope if you read it that you love it too. Yeah, check it out. If you've read this, definitely let me know what you think of Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Because I tell you, the more time passes since I finished this, the more it continues to just sort of marinate in my mind and age like a fine wine, and I only just appreciate it more and more as I sort of uncover more layers of it. Because there's so many interpretations to have of it. I mean, it ends in a way that's very satisfying and resolute, I don't think you have to worry at all about the ending being unclear or confusing in any sort of way. But it still, at the same time, manages to keep things very open to interpretation, where you can really I think everybody's going to walk away with a little bit of a different takeaway from this story in terms of what it means, what it represents to them, the possible allegories and symbolism that could be going on here. So it's a very satisfying ending, even if you just take things on the sort of surface level, ties things up very nicely into a neat bow, which just makes for a great story. But you also have the choice to look so much deeper into it if you want to, and there's just so many different interpretations and possibilities to theorize about with this book, and just so much discussion to be had, which I think is really an incredible achievement, especially for a book this short. So, yeah, had to throw that little tangent on the end there, but just an absolutely fantastic book. Can't recommend it enough. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you've read it, what your thoughts are, and I'd love to, start up a discussion down there. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll have more book reviews on the way. Talk to you guys later.